Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earthship Defiant. Through the front window he could see something massive appearing in space. It was an alien ship, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ship glowed with a strange purple light that hurt to look at directly. Jake had been in space for 6 months. His mission was simple: explore new star systems and look for signs of other life. Well, he had found it. And it did not look friendly. "Captain, they are trying to talk to us," said Lieutenant Amy Chen. She worked at the communications station and looked nervous. Jake straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Let them through." The screen in front of him lit up. An alien appeared on it. The creature was tall and looked like a giant insect. It had 4 arms and eyes that seemed to shine with many colors. The alien wore armor that moved like liquid metal. "Primitive species," the alien said. A computer translated its words into English. "I am High Commander Zarthix of the Valorian Empire. You have entered Imperial space without permission. By the authority of the Galactic Council, your ship will be taken. Your species will be registered in our files." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 8 months ago. They were like children learning to walk among adults who could run. They had no idea this part of space belonged to anyone. "High Commander, we did not mean to cause problems. We are explorers from Earth. We did not know this area was claimed. We will leave and set up proper communication with your government." The alien made a sound like clicking and laughing at the same time. "Communication? Your species barely understands basic science. You use old engines on your planet. Your ships are made of welded metal held together with hope." The alien leaned closer to the screen. "You are children playing with fire. Submit to us now, and we will make your integration into the Empire easy." Jake looked at his tactical officer, Lieutenant Peter Grant. Peter shook his head slightly. The Defiant was outgunned and outmatched. The nearest Earthship was 3 weeks away, even at top speed. "We need time to talk with our government," Jake said carefully. "You have 1 day," the alien replied. "After that, we will take your ship by force." The screen went black. Jake turned to his crew. He could see fear in their eyes, but also determination. They all knew what was coming next. "Amy, send an emergency message to Earth. Send them everything we recorded. Peter, I want a full report on that ship's weapons and defenses. And someone get me Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe. I have an idea she will not like." 20 minutes later, Lisa stood in Jake's private office. Her hands were covered in grease and she looked tired. "You want me to do what?" she asked. "I need you to push the reactor beyond its limits," Jake said. "Beyond every safety rule. I need enough power to jump through slip space while also charging all our weapons at the same time." "Captain, that is not how our systems work." The reactor was not built for that kind of power load. We would need their fancy technology to handle that much energy, without the ship tearing itself apart. "I know what our ships cannot do, Lisa, but I also know you have been making changes to the reactor since we left Earth. You have found ways to make it more efficient. I am not asking you to make it pretty. I am asking you to make it work for maybe 10 minutes. Lisa stared at him for a long moment. Then she slowly nodded. 10 minutes, maybe, but Jake, if this goes wrong, we will not even leave pieces behind. The reactor will create a black hole. Understood. How long do you need? 18 hours. And I will need to shut down life support to the back sections to move power around. You have 16 hours. And Lisa, keep this quiet. I do not want the crew to panic. After Lisa left, Jake studied the data on the alien ship. It was beautiful and deadly. Its shields could stop almost anything. Its weapons could destroy a planet. Its sensors could track a ship from very far away. But Jake had noticed something during their conversation. The shields had a pattern. They turned on and off very quickly to release heat. It was a weakness so small that only a ship with simple, always-on sensors could detect it. The aliens had built their sensors to be efficient, which meant they scanned in pulses just like their shields. They had made themselves too perfect and created a blind spot. Jake smiled grimly. Maybe being primitive had some advantages after all. 16 hours passed slowly. The crew worked quietly, each person knowing that their lives depended on what happened next. Lisa performed miracles in the engine room, pushing the reactor to limits that should have been impossible. Finally, the time came. Jake sat in his captain's chair and looked at his crew. All hands, battle stations. We are going to teach these aliens why humans are still around even though we are primitive. He paused and looked at each crew member.
Helm, execute the plan on my mark.
Tactical, fire all weapons the moment we arrive. Communications, send the package. 3, 2, 1, mark. The ship's reactor screamed as it pushed impossible amounts of energy into the slip space drive. Space itself seemed to tear open in front of them. But instead of jumping far away, the Defiant made a tiny jump. They appeared directly beneath the alien ship. On the alien vessel, alarms blared across every station. The human ship is jumping, but they are jumping toward us, someone screamed. Impossible. No species uses slip space for fighting. The math alone would take computers we know they do not have. But the impossible was happening. The Defiant came out of slip space right in the alien ship's blind spot, in that tiny moment when the shields were off. For just a second, the massive alien ship had no protection. Peter did not waste time. 3 railgun shots, each moving at incredible speed, hit the alien ship's main sensor array. Explosions bloomed across the hull. Missiles followed, their chemical warheads doing surprising damage. But Amy's computer virus did the real damage. The signal was not a message. It was an attack designed to crash the aliens' computer systems. The aliens had built their technology to be perfect, which meant they had removed all the safety features and backup systems. The virus crashed every system connected to their communications network. On a ship designed for perfect integration, that meant almost everything stopped working. All systems offline. Backup power failing.
We are dead in space!
Someone screamed on the alien ship. High Commander Zarthix stared at his screen in complete shock as the primitive human ship turned around for another attack. How, he whispered. How is this possible? On the Defiant's bridge, Jake allowed himself a small smile. Helm, get us out of here before they recover. Maximum slip space, random direction. Lisa, how is the reactor? Surprisingly not melted. Lisa's voice came over the speaker. But Captain, we cannot do that again, ever. The reactor has cracks I could fit my hand through. Noted. Amy, did Earth get the message? Yes, sir. Earth Command received everything. They are calling back all exploration ships and preparing the defense fleet. Good. Jake settled back in his chair, his heart still racing. Because we just started a war, and we are going to need every advantage we can get. Part 2, the Galactic Council chamber was huge. It was a round room that floated in space between dimensions. Representatives from 47 different alien species gathered here. Some looked like trees made of light. Others were clouds of gas. Some were made of crystal. At the center of the room, a hologram showed footage from the alien ship that the Defiant had attacked. Counselor Veritas spoke first. She was tall and looked like a tree made of silver light. This council has watched High Commander Zarthix's report 3 times. Each time we watch it, we become more confused. I think we should hear from the commander himself. The other council members agreed. High Commander Zarthix appeared in the center of the room. His armor had been repaired, but he still looked embarrassed. Honorable counselors, he began, I will explain what happened with the humans. The species from Earth showed fighting abilities that do not match their technology level. That is obvious, said Counselor Throck. He was a massive being made of living stone. His voice was deep and rumbling. What is not obvious is how they did the impossible. Your report says they made a tactical slip-space jump. This requires very complex math that takes our best computers several minutes to calculate. The humans do not have those kinds of computers. They do not, Zarthix confirmed. Their computer systems are very simple. They use something called silicon chips. By our standards, they are using ancient tools to travel between stars. Then how? Demanded Counselor Silrith. Her crystalline body made musical sounds when she spoke. How did they calculate a jump so perfectly? How did they detect our shield pulse pattern? How did their virus get past our encrypted systems? Zarthix's eyes dimmed. We believe they did not calculate the jump in real time. They pre-calculated thousands of possible scenarios before the fight started. Then they just picked the right one. It is very inefficient and requires huge amounts of data storage, but it works. Ridiculous, Silrith replied. The data storage alone would weigh more than their entire ship. Unless they compressed it differently than we do, said a new voice. The speaker was Counselor Dax, a human who had been allowed to speak to the council after emergency diplomatic talks. He looked ordinary in his simple uniform, standing among all the exotic alien forms. We do not process things efficiently. We store everything multiple times in multiple formats. Our computers are not smart. They are just very stubborn. And the shield frequency detection? Veritas asked. Our sensors are always on, Dax explained. We do not turn them on and off to save power because our power systems waste so much energy that a little extra use does not matter. So we see things happening continuously that your efficient sensors miss. And the virus? Throck asked. Dax smiled a little. Your computer systems are elegant. They are perfectly optimized, which means they have no redundancy, no error checking, no ability to handle bad data. We built our computers when they broke all the time, so we learned to make them tough. Your systems are like fine crystal, beautiful but fragile. Ours are like bricks, ugly but almost impossible to destroy. The council chamber became very quiet as everyone thought about this. You are saying that human technology works because it is primitive. Silrith sounded like she could not believe it. I am saying our technology works because we never had the luxury of making it perfect, Dax corrected. We had to make it work despite our limitations. And in doing that, we accidentally made it strong in ways your technology is not. This is unprecedented, Virathas said slowly. A species achieving military success through being inefficient. We are not equal to you, Dax said bluntly. One human ship got lucky against one of yours. You have thousands of ships, technologies we cannot even imagine, and resources we can only dream about. But we do have one advantage. We are used to things not working perfectly. We improvise, we adapt. We make do with what we have. It is what we have always done. Then why did you come here? Throck asked. If you know you cannot win a war, why talk to this council? Because I am hoping you are smart enough to realize that you cannot win either, Dax replied. Not in any way that matters. You can destroy Earth, sure. Burn the whole planet from space. But humanity has already spread to 17 colony worlds. We are like weeds. We grow anywhere we can. You would have to hunt us down system by system, planet by planet. And every fight we would learn. We would adapt. We would find new ways to use your advanced technology against you. He leaned forward, speaking intensely. Or you could accept our application to join the Galactic Council. You could trade with us, learn from us, and we could learn from you. Yes, we are primitive. Yes, our technology is backwards. But maybe that is exactly what your civilization needs. A reminder that there is more than one way to solve a problem. The council chamber erupted into discussion. Voices and signals overlapped in chaos. Councillor Virathas let it continue for several minutes before calling for quiet. The human makes good points, she said. But there is also tradition to consider. No species has ever been granted council membership without meeting minimum technology standards. To do so now would set a dangerous example. Then perhaps it is time to question what technology standards really mean, suggested Councillor Lir Atha. She was a floating creature that looked like a jellyfish. The humans have proven that advancement and capability are not the same thing. They have forced us to face assumptions we have held for thousands of years. I suggest a compromise, Throck rumbled. Grant the humans temporary membership. Assign them someone to help them understand galactic politics and technology. In return, they share their unique perspective with council research projects. We learn from each other. And if they cause problems, Silrith demanded. Then we reconsider, Virathas said. But Councillor Dax is right about one thing. A war with humanity would be expensive even if we won. Better to make them friends than enemies, a vote was called. When the count finished, humanity had been granted temporary status. 40 votes in favor, 7 opposed. Dax felt relief wash over him. It was not everything Earth had hoped for, but it was a beginning. And for a species that had climbed from being primitive savages to space travelers in just a few generations, a beginning was all they needed. In the weeks that followed, diplomatic channels opened between Earth and the Galactic Council. Trade agreements were discussed. Technology exchanges were planned. Cultural ambassadors were assigned, but not everyone was happy about the new arrangement. On many worlds, there was resistance to accepting humans as equals. Some species saw them as dangerous. Others saw them as contaminating galactic culture with their primitive ways. High Commander Zarthix was among those who struggled with the change. He stood in his quarters on the Valorian homeworld looking at star charts. Somewhere out there, humans were spreading through space, bringing their chaotic methods with them. His second officer, Krelnak, entered the room. Commander, the War Council has made a decision. They want to establish joint training exercises with the human military. Zarthix turned sharply. Joint training? With primitives who barely understand their own technology? The Council believes we can learn from their tactical flexibility, and they can learn strategic planning from us. This is madness, Zarthix said. We are the Valorian Empire. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. We have perfected the art of war over thousands of years. What can we possibly learn from humans? Perhaps we can learn humility, Krelnak said quietly. They defeated us, Commander. With inferior technology and impossible tactics, maybe that is exactly what we need to learn. How to fight when perfection is not possible. How to adapt when plans fail. Zarthix had no answer for that. He looked back at the star charts, at the small blue dot that marked Earth. Such a small, insignificant planet, yet it had changed everything. Meanwhile, on Earth, celebrations continued. Humanity had been accepted into the galactic community. The future looked bright with possibilities. New technologies would be shared. New worlds would be explored. New friendships would be formed. But there were also those who worried. What would humanity lose in exchange for galactic acceptance? Would they be forced to give up what made them human? Would their rough edges be smoothed away until they became just another species following the same patterns as everyone else? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had arrived, primitive and stubborn and refusing to follow the rules. And the universe was about to learn that sometimes the most primitive solution was the most effective one. Part 3, the research facility on Proxima Station, was divided into 2 parts. One half was built using Galactic Council technology. It had walls that could not be broken, and gravity that could be adjusted for any species. The other half was pure human construction, all straight lines and welded metal, with flickering lights and air systems that hummed loudly. Dr. Kate Williams stood between the 2 sections, looking at data on her tablet. The device was clunky compared to galactic technology, but she trusted it. Across from her stood Scientific Director Velkoth, an alien whose crystal body split light into rainbow colors. I still cannot understand how your species discovered faster than light travel, Velkoth said. His voice sounded like wind blowing through caves. Your understanding of dimensional physics is, forgive me, completely wrong. Kate laughed. No offense taken. You are right. When we first made slipspace work, we had no idea how it actually worked. We just knew that if we ran our fusion reactor at a specific frequency, space got weird around the ship. It took us 5 years to even develop a basic theory about why. But how did you know to try that frequency? Trial and error, Kate said with a shrug. We tried thousands of frequencies. Most did nothing. Some blew up the test ships. One worked. So we used it. Velkoth's crystal body flickered with what might have been shock. You discovered interdimensional travel through random experimentation? Pretty much. Is that not how science works? Science works through theory, mathematical modeling, controlled testing, peer review, and only then practical application. Your method is chaos. Our method is practical, Kate corrected. We did not have time to understand everything perfectly. We needed results. So yes, it is messy, but it works. She pulled up a display showing a human fusion reactor next to a galactic exotic matter converter. Look at the efficiency numbers. Your converter operates at 99.7% efficiency. Our reactor barely hits 40%, but our reactor costs 1/10 as much to build, can be repaired with basic tools, and can run on 6 different fuel types. Your converter requires exotic matter that only exists in 3 star systems and needs special facilities to repair. Efficiency is not just about cost, Velkoth argued. It is about elegance, about perfecting the design. And that is where we differ, Kate said. Humans learned long ago that perfect is the enemy of good enough. We would rather have something that works now than something perfect later. This philosophy has some merit, Velkoth admitted, but it also leads to disasters. I have reviewed your engineering reports. The number of accidents, explosions, and system failures in your early space program is terrifying. Every one of those failures taught us something, Kate replied. We learn by breaking things. You learn by not breaking them in the first place. Different approaches. Their conversation was interrupted by an excited shout from the human section. Kate and Velkoth hurried over to find researchers gathered around a test setup. Engineer Paul Stevens was grinning widely. Kate, you have to see this, Paul exclaimed. We combined human metalwork with galactic shield technology. Look, he turned on the test equipment. A small metal plate, barely larger than a dinner plate, suddenly glowed with an energy field. Paul picked up a plasma torch, powerful enough to cut through starship hulls, and fired it at the plate. The plasma splashed harmlessly against the shield. Okay, impressive, but we already have shields, Kate said. Wait. Paul grinned and shut off the shield generator. The metal plate underneath had no marks on it. The shields failed after 15 seconds, but the plate itself could take another 30 seconds of direct plasma fire. We created a hybrid defense system. The shields handle the first impact and the armor handles anything that gets through. Velkoth made excited sounds. This is revolutionary. Our shields are powerful but fragile. When they fail, our ships are vulnerable. But with human-style armor as backup, the protection is layered. We call it defense in depth, Paul said. Never trust a single system. Always have a backup. This principle could be applied to all ship systems, Velkoth realized. Redundant computers, backup power, multiple sensor arrays. Welcome to human engineering, Kate said dryly. We assume everything will break and plan accordingly. Over the following months, knowledge exchange accelerated. Humans learned to make their technology smaller using galactic techniques. The Council species learned to make their systems tougher using human redundancy principles. Hybrid designs began appearing that combined the best of both approaches. Scientists from both sides worked together on projects that neither could have completed alone. Human creativity met galactic precision. Human improvisation met alien planning. The results were often surprising and always interesting. A human engineer named Greg Foster developed a new type of ship engine that used galactic antimatter containment, with human-style mechanical backups. When the exotic containment failed, mechanical locks would snap shut, preventing catastrophic explosions. It was not elegant, but it saved lives. An alien physicist named Trelvor learned from human experimental methods and discovered 3 new subspace frequencies that theory said should not exist. The humans had not been afraid to try things that theory said were impossible. A joint team created new medical scanners that combined galactic precision with human robustness. The devices could work in battle conditions, in extreme temperatures, even after taking damage. They were not as accurate as pure galactic scanners, but they worked when nothing else would. But not everyone celebrated these advances. On the Valorian homeworld, High Commander Zarthix stood before the War Council. His mandibles clicked with frustration. The humans are corrupting our technology with their primitive methods. They speak of good enough and acceptable failure rates as if these are virtues rather than signs of poor engineering. Yet the hybrid designs are proving effective, noted General Krikstar. The new armor plating has increased ship survival by 34%. The redundant systems have reduced total failures by 40%. At what cost? Zarthix demanded. We are abandoning thousands of years of refined knowledge to embrace chaos. Perhaps we had refined ourselves into being fragile, Krikstar suggested quietly. The humans reminded us that perfection can be a weakness if it removes adaptability. You sound like them now, Zarthix said bitterly. No, I sound like a soldier who learned a hard lesson. We lost to the humans not because they were advanced, but because we could not imagine someone solving problems their way. That failure of imagination almost cost us everything. Zarthix had no response. He left the council chamber with his certainty shaken. The galaxy was changing and he was not sure if he liked where it was going. Deep in the research facility, Kate Williams and Velkoth continued their work. They had become unlikely friends, the human scientist and the crystal alien. They argued constantly about methods and philosophy, but they respected each other. You know, Velkoth said one day, when I first met humans, I thought you were dangerous. Your methods seemed reckless. Your technology seemed crude. I thought you would cause disasters, and now? Kate asked. Now I think you are still dangerous, but I also think we needed that danger. We had become too safe, too cautious, too locked into our ways of thinking. You forced us to remember that there are always new solutions to old problems. That might be the nicest thing anyone has said about humanity since we joined the council, Kate said with a smile. Do not let it go to your head, Velkoth replied. You are still primitive. And proud of it, Kate laughed. The research continued. Every day brought new discoveries, new collaborations, new friendships. Humans and aliens learning from each other, challenging each other, growing together. The galaxy was indeed changing, and perhaps, just perhaps, it was changing for the better. Part 4. 2 years after humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Earth vessel Resilient. The ship was beautiful. combining sleek galactic design with the strong skeleton of human engineering. It represented everything humanity had learned in 2 years of working with alien species. "Captain, we are receiving a distress call," reported Lieutenant Amy Chen, who was now his first officer. "It is coming from the Valorian border. A science vessel is under attack by the Void Reapers." Jake felt his blood turn cold. The Void Reapers were a rogue group that rejected the Council's authority. They were the most feared military force in the galaxy, using hit-and-run tactics and overwhelming firepower to strike wherever they wanted. "Set course, maximum slip space speed," Jake ordered. "Battle stations. Amy, contact the Council fleet. We will need backup." "Council ships are 6 hours away at minimum," Amy reported. "We will be alone for the first part of the fight." "Story of my life," Jake muttered under his breath. The Resilient dropped out of slip space to find chaos. The Valorian science vessel, called the Seeker of Truth, was surrounded by 3 Reaper corvettes. The ship's shields were failing, and escape pods were already launching into space. "What are we facing?" Jake demanded. 3 corvettes, heavily armed, probably equipped with quantum disruptors, reported Tactical Officer Helen Cruz. "Their shields are military grade, and they have superior firepower. A normal fight would be suicide, sir." "Good thing we do not do normal fights." "Helen, target their sensor arrays with railguns." "Amy, prepare a communications virus version 7. Helm, I need a slip space microjump that puts us between the Reapers and the science vessel." "Sir, that is a human tactic," Helen said carefully. "These ships have council training. They will expect it." "Then we will not do it the same way," Jake replied. "This time we jump in with shields up and weapons powered down. Make them think we are just positioning." The Resilient materialized between the Reapers and their target, shields glowing at maximum strength. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the Reaper corvettes fired. A beam of purple energy splashed harmlessly against the Resilient's hybrid shields. "Now," Jake ordered. The shields dropped for just a microsecond, long enough for the railguns to fire 3 perfectly aimed shots. The Reaper's sensor array exploded in a shower of metal and fire. At the same time, Amy launched the virus through every communication channel, using the brief moment of confusion. But the Reapers had learned from previous fights with human tactics. The remaining 2 corvettes immediately shut down all non-essential systems, cutting themselves off from the virus. They moved with practiced skill, putting the Resilient in a crossfire between them. "Shields at 60%, Helen reported. They are coordinating their attacks." "This is bad, Captain." Jake gritted his teeth. They needed something unexpected, something the Reapers had not seen before. Then he had an idea. "Helen, fire missiles. But do not detonate them, sir. Just launch them on a straight path, then cut their engines. Make the Reapers think they are broken." Helen followed orders. A spread of missiles flew through space before going dead, drifting like debris. The Reaper corvettes ignored them, focusing their fire on the Resilient. "Shields at 40%, Helen reported. "We cannot take much more." "Wait for it," Jake said calmly, watching his tactical display. The drifting missiles were exactly where he needed them. The Valorian science vessel suddenly fired its emergency thrusters, pushing itself away from the battle. As it moved, its damaged shields flickered and died completely. The Reaper corvette saw an easy target and shifted their aim toward it. As they moved, they flew directly into the field of dead missiles. "Detonate," Jake ordered. Helen triggered the missiles remotely. The explosions were not powerful enough to destroy the corvettes, but the electromagnetic pulse from the chemical detonations overloaded their precision sensors. For just a moment, the Reapers were flying blind. The Resilient did not waste the chance. Railgun fire tore into one corvette's engines, crippling it completely. The other corvette, seeing the fight was lost, jumped to slip space and fled. The damaged corvette tried to follow, but its broken engines could not generate a stable field. It hung in space, powerless. "Secure that corvette," Jake ordered. "Send rescue teams to the science vessel. Someone tell me casualties are light." "The Valorians are responding," Amy reported. "Their captain wants to speak with you." The view screen flickered and High Commander Zarthix appeared. The Valorian looked older than Jake remembered. His compound eyes were dimmer and he stood less rigidly. "Commander Morrison," Zarthix said quietly, "it seems I owe you my life and the lives of my crew." "Just doing my job, High Commander. I am glad we arrived in time." "You fought using both Council technology and human tactics," Zarthix observed. "The combination was, I must admit, very effective." "We have learned a lot in 2 years," Jake replied. From you, from the Council, from everyone willing to teach us. And we have learned from you, Zarthix admitted. I resisted this truth for a long time. I believed your methods were inferior, that adopting them would weaken us. But I was wrong. You have shown us that there is strength in imperfection, power in redundancy, and wisdom in accepting that we do not have all the answers. He made a formal gesture of respect. The Valorian Empire formally requests joint military training with the Earth Defense Forces. We wish to learn your tactical flexibility, your ability to improvise under pressure. In return, we will share our strategic planning and weapons technology. Jake smiled. I think Earth Command will approve that, High Commander. We could use some of your strategic discipline. After the transmission ended, Amy turned to Jake. Did you ever think we would get here? 2 years ago, they wanted to classify us as non-sentient. Now they are asking us to train their military. I think we proved that being advanced is not just about technology, Jake replied. It is about how you use what you have. We showed the galaxy that being primitive does not mean being weak. Sometimes the simple solution is the right solution. And sometimes the simple solution involves turning missiles into space mines, Helen added with a grin. Whatever works, Jake said. Whatever works. The rescue operation took several hours. The Valorian crew was safely transferred to the Resilient while engineers worked to stabilize the damaged science vessel. The captured Reaper corvette was secured and would be towed back to Council space for study. As Jake walked through the corridors of his ship, he saw humans and aliens working side by side. A Valorian engineer was helping a human technician repair a damaged power conduit. A human medic was treating an injured crystalline alien. A mixed crew was loading supplies for the damaged science vessel. 2 years ago, this would have been unimaginable. Now it was just another day. Jake made his way to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Reapers were regrouping. Somewhere out there, other threats lurked. But humanity was no longer alone. They had allies now. Friends, partners. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but it was also full of possibilities. And humanity, stubborn and primitive and refusing to quit, was ready to face whatever came next. Lieutenant Amy Chen joined him at the window. What are you thinking about, Captain? I am thinking about how far we have come, Jake said, and how far we still have to go. We will get there, Amy said confidently. We always do. Yes, Jake agreed. We always do. Part 5, 6 months after the Reaper incident, Counselor Dax stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. The alien representatives looked at him with respect instead of curiosity or dismissal. He could feel the change in the air. Counselor Dax, Veritas began. She was the tall silver tree being who led many of the council discussions. The temporary status of humanity has been under review. After 2 years of observation, trade, and military cooperation, this council has reached a decision. Dax felt his heart beat faster but kept his face calm and neutral. The human species has demonstrated adaptability, toughness, and a unique perspective that has enriched our shared knowledge. Veritas continued. Your hybrid technologies have improved ship survival across all council fleets by an average of 42%. Your tactical training has been adopted by 17 member species. Your principle of defense in depth has become standard military doctrine across the galaxy. The silver being leaned forward. More importantly, you have reminded us of something we had forgotten. That there are many paths to progress, many ways to solve a problem, that efficiency and elegance are not the only measures of value. Therefore, Throck rumbled, his stone voice echoing through the chamber. By unanimous vote, humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council. Welcome, Counselor Dax. Welcome humanity to the galactic community. The chamber erupted in celebration. Each species expressed joy in their own unique way. Crystals chimed. Gas clouds swirled in complex patterns. Stone beings resonated with deep tones. And through it all, Dax stood with tears in his eyes. Dax allowed himself a genuine smile. Earth had come a long way from that first disastrous encounter with the Valorian Empire. They had proven that impossible technology, crude methods, and human stubbornness could not only survive in the wider galaxy, but thrive. The news reached Earth within hours. Across the planet, people celebrated. In cities and small towns and space stations and colony worlds, humanity rejoiced. They had been accepted. They belonged. But with acceptance came new responsibilities. Full council membership meant participation in galactic defense. It meant contributing to scientific research. It meant helping to maintain peace and order across hundreds of star systems. Commander Jake Morrison received new orders a week later. The Resilient would become the flagship of the first joint human-alien task force. His crew would be expanded to include representatives from a dozen different species. They would patrol the frontier regions, responding to threats and protecting council interests. On his first day with the new crew, Jake stood in the briefing room looking at the assembled officers. There were humans, of course, but also Valorians, shard singers, even a void whisperer who existed as a contained cloud of sentient gas. Each brought their own skills, their own perspectives, their own ways of solving problems. "Welcome aboard the Resilient," Jake began. "I know some of you have reservations about serving under a human captain. I know some of you think our methods are reckless or primitive. You might be right. But here is what I can promise you. On this ship, we use what works. If that means using advanced galactic technology, we use it. If that means using simple human solutions, we use those too. We do not care about elegant or primitive. We care about effective." He looked around the room, meeting each officer's eyes or eye equivalent. "We are going to face threats out there that none of us can handle alone. But together, combining all our knowledge and skills, there is nothing we cannot overcome. So check your prejudices at the door. Learn from each other, and let us show the galaxy what a truly unified crew can accomplish." The response was mixed, but Jake saw nods of agreement from most of the assembled officers. It was a start. Meanwhile, at the research facility on Proxima Station, Dr. Kate Williams and Scientific Director Velkoth continued their work. Their friendship had deepened over the months, and they had become one of the most productive research teams in Council space. "I have been thinking," Velkoth said one day, his crystal body refracting light into rainbow patterns, "about what makes human technology so effective despite its primitiveness." "Oh, this should be good," Kate said with a smile. "I believe it is your relationship with failure. We galactic species have spent millennia trying to eliminate failure. We design systems that cannot break. We create processes that cannot go wrong. We optimize until perfection is achieved. And then one unexpected thing happens and everything falls apart," Kate finished. "Exactly. But humans expect failure. You plan for it. You build backups for your backups. You assume things will go wrong and prepare accordingly. It is not elegant, but it is robust. So what you are saying is we are too stubborn to let failure stop us." "Precisely. And perhaps that is the most important technology of all. Not the ability to build perfect systems, but the ability to keep going when systems fail." Kate thought about that. "You know, when Earth first achieved spaceflight, we had so many disasters. Rockets exploding on launch pads, capsules burning up on re-entry, people dying in accidents that could have been prevented. It would have been easy to give up, to say space was too dangerous. But we kept trying. Every failure taught us something. Every disaster made us more determined. And now you are teaching that determination to the galaxy," Velkoth said. "It is a valuable gift." The months passed. The joint task forces proved successful. Human tactical flexibility combined with alien strategic planning created fighting forces more effective than either could achieve alone. Pirates and raiders who had operated freely for years found themselves outmatched and overwhelmed. The research partnerships produced breakthrough after breakthrough. New engine designs that were both efficient and robust, medical technologies that worked in extreme conditions, communication systems that could not be jammed or hacked. Each success built on the strengths of both human and galactic approaches. But perhaps the most important change was cultural. Humans and aliens were learning to understand each other, not just how to work together, but how to think like each other. Humans learned patience and long-term planning. Aliens learned improvisation and creative problem-solving. A new generation was growing up, both human and alien, who had never known a galaxy without the other. To them, the differences between species were just normal. The idea that humans were primitive or that aliens were too rigid seemed old-fashioned and silly. On Earth, in classrooms and academies, young people learned the history of first contact. They learned about Commander Jake Morrison's impossible jump and Dr. Kate Williams's hybrid technologies. They learned about humanity's refusal to accept that their primitive methods were inferior. But most importantly, they learned the lesson that would define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations to come. Sometimes the best solution is not the most advanced one, Sometimes it is the one that simply refuses to quit, built by people who learned to make things work despite impossible odds, people who turned their limitations into strengths, people who proved that being called primitive was not an insult, but a challenge to overcome. The Galactic Empire had been shocked to discover that human technology was not advanced. It was impossible by their standards. Thrown together from borrowed ideas and brute force solutions, but impossible, as humanity had proven time and time again, was just another word for not tried yet. High Commander Zarthik stood on the bridge of a new Valorian warship, watching a joint exercise between human and alien forces. The ships moved in perfect coordination, each covering the other's weaknesses, each enhancing the other's strengths. He thought back to that first encounter with the Defiant, when he had been so certain of human inferiority. How wrong he had been. How blind, Commander, his officer said. The humans are requesting permission to demonstrate their new tactical formation. Permission granted, Zarthik said, and he watched with genuine interest as the human ships performed maneuvers that still seemed impossible, even after 2 years. Perhaps that was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. The reminder that impossible was just a word, that limitations could be overcome, that different did not mean inferior. The stars stretched out before them, endless and full of mysteries. And humanity, primitive and stubborn and brilliant, was ready to explore them all. Together with their galactic friends, there was nothing they could not achieve. Nothing they could not overcome. No challenge too great. No problem without a solution. The future was bright. The future was uncertain. The future was impossible, and humanity had never let impossible stop them before.